Good morning, loves. Well, it's not exactly morning. It's 12:26. I just sat down about 20 minutes ago with my coffee. My microphone was covered. I hope we're okay. I had the most terrible dreams last night that I woke up so afraid and so upset and so unnerved at about 7:30. I had to take Xanax, which I seldom do. And I had my alarm clock set. But once the Xanax kicks in and I go back to sleep, it's hard to get up. I set my alarm clock for 10:30 so I could sleep a while, but at 10:30 I was still so out of it. I set it for 11. I reset it for 11. And when it rang at 11, I got up, but I could have slept all day, I think. So I'm very slow moving today. Thank God for coffee. Coffee is one of the great miracles of the world, if you ask me. I've got I love these mugs. It's got coffee all over it, but you see me using these mugs. I've got the green, the pink, and the blue. They're 30-ounce mugs, which is a lot, but the reason is because the coffee goes up to about here, and then the foam goes like that. It's not as much as it sounds. Molly wants her little sip. Molly nips, as you've watched these videos with me, Molly nips the foam. You might hear her taking a little slurp there. Okay, that's good, Molly. That's good. Now Mama wants to drink. Sorry, foam lip. So because I am having such a slow-moving, raggedy sort of day, I thought that I would do something that I never really thought that I would do to this extent. But I've been getting so much positive feedback about when I read to you something. And normally it will be a page or a quote or a paragraph. Sorry, I'm getting situated here. But today I have had this book sitting next to me for some time, trying to pick a passage out, a page or so out, to read to you, because it is a book that came into my life as I had just been stricken with Bell's palsy. That was 1995. I've said this before, but I saw 3 different doctors and they all agreed I had the worst case of Bell's that they had seen. I'm still not completely recovered, and that was 25 years ago. See, when I smile, I only smile on one side. There's still paralysis on this side. When you get Bell's, it's a lesion on the facial nerve, and it's like the whole side of your face. I mean, it's a real Phantom of the Opera time. And I had another syndrome along with it that is rare, that causes extreme pain. And as I've said, my last vestige of self-esteem, since I'd gained so much weight after having my 3 children, was that everybody always told me I had a beautiful smile. And Bell's palsy took the smile away. I'm glad I didn't know at the time that it took the smile away forever. But the thing is, and that is the lead up to what I'm going to read to you, because in the week after Bell's, when I was in bed with my face packed in ice for the pain, a book came that I had ordered before Bell's, and it changed my life. It introduced me to the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi. Someone mentioned that in comments the other day about when a bowl is cracked. In Japan, they fill in the cracks either with pure gold or sterling silver, at which point the object is now more valuable than it was in the first place. And that is the art of wabi-sabi, the imperfect perfect. And Sue Bender talks about it in her book, Everyday Sacred. And it changed my life. This whole book changed my life. In fact, in the inside cover of the book, I wrote this long thing about I got my first copy and blah blah blah, and then all kinds of dates and notes about other times. And I actually have 3 copies of this book because every time I lost one. This is the original book. I don't even have the beautiful paper cover, and it's worth looking up on Amazon just to see the cover of this book. It's stunning. I decided I'm going to read this book to you, little at a time, and today I'm going to start because I'm so tired and so down in myself that I can't find the words to say anything meaningful, and I could not offer you anything more meaningful than Sue Bender's book, Everyday Sacred. The subtitle is A Woman's Journey Home. It is, of course, nonfiction. It is a book that I have, even though I've mentioned the other writers to you that I so love, Gladys Tabor and May Sarton, whose books I have read and reread, I don't think I've ever read any book in my life more often than Everyday Sacred. It is the thing when I'm really losing myself, really in a hard place, really down, I've lost my focus, I will read it. It is not a long book, and it's 166 pages, but these pages are very, very spacious. There are gaps in, like there's spaces between paragraphs. There's big spaces between. She doesn't have chapters. They're just ongoing. The book is just kind of ongoing. And, she'll have her little line drawing. She's an artist. She's older now. She had 3 books come out, and then I haven't heard anything in a long time. But I am going to read to you the first 3 sections. They're not long. And the quote that she puts on the frontispiece, the epigraph, if you will, is Mother Teresa, who said, and I'm sure you've all heard this, "We do not do great things. We do only small things with great love." And the preface, I have to show you, she drew it in a bowl. This is the whole preface right here. And it's a bowl, a gorgeous bowl, on the cover of the book, whose dust jacket somehow has disappeared. I really prefer a paperback book. I think they're easier to hold. But I got this particular copy, was the first one I ever read. It's all marked up. Look at the underlinings and whatever. But okay, so I will begin. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you don't mind that I'm reading for a longer time today. Welcome back, Sue Bender. Preface. This story is about a bowl waiting to be filled. If what I have written makes no sense to you, I am not surprised. If I had known in the beginning what I was looking for, I would not have written this story. I had to trust there was a reason I had to write, and I didn't have to have it all figured out in order to begin. I would find what I was looking for along the way. For as long as I can remember, I have been listening to a harsh, critical voice inside me, but I've lived with it so long that I never really noticed the influence it was having on my life. I not only listened, I believed what this harsh judge was saying. The voice passes judgment on everything I do. "You're not measuring up," the judge shouts. I'm never sure what I'm supposed to measure up to, only that I never will. Nothing I do will ever be enough. "Don't complain," the judge adds. "You have it easy." Judging myself harshly for having a harsh judge only makes matters worse. When I try to ignore it, the voice gets louder. I could have read all the books in the world about showing loving kindness toward oneself, but I could do nothing to stop the voice of the judge. I felt a hunger inside that I didn't understand and couldn't satisfy. And look at this next line. I return to it all the time. You see, I have circled it and put stars on both sides. Miracles come after a lot of hard work. That was the last line of my first book, Plain and Simple. That's such a fabulous book, too. It was the story of a journey that led me to live with the Amish. Everyday Sacred is the story of another journey, a journey to learn about the sacred in my own life. My need to learn was connected to the harsh judge, but I didn't understand the connection until I had almost completed this book. Not everyone has a harsh judge, but many of us have some inner voice that has the power to undercut, to make us doubt ourselves, and leaves us wondering why we aren't more content. To begin to make every day sacred, I first had to step back and look at the judge and everything else in my life. Maybe I wrote Every Day Sacred to learn more about miracles. And this is the beginning. How it began. I'll never write another word, I thought with relief when Plain and Simple was published. I felt complete, exhausted, and satisfied. I had survived an obsessive love affair that had taken over my life for 7 years. Cross out person and put in project. The feeling was the same. I'd felt the excitement of going overboard, a fierce, single-minded intention, none of it making sense, and I believed I had no other choice. Now I have a choice. I would come home and calm down. I would do one thing at a time. I would work in my studio with clay, something I loved doing. I wouldn't rush. I would live the simple life I had learned about among the Amish, calm and purposeful. Art is order, made out of the chaos of life, Saul Bellow once wrote. I scribbled the words in pencil on a scrap of torn paper, placed it on the white formica table next to my bed, and held it down with a large pewter heart. I expected my life to be transformed. I expected a miracle. At first, my days were unhurried. I enjoyed whatever I was doing. The spirit of the Amish was all around. On those days, I felt grateful. Then, hardly noticing it, I started getting busy, saying yes to the many things that were offered. Suddenly, I had too much on my plate. I had slipped back into an old groove, frantically scurrying to get everything done, crossing things off a never-ending list and feeling the constant weight of all that was left undone. I was back in the world of never enough. I still felt a hunger inside that I didn't understand and couldn't satisfy. "You should have called your book Hectic and Chaotic," my son David observed. I had learned a lot, but not enough. The day I heard that Plain and Simple had made the New York Times bestseller list, I happened to meet a good friend at the vegetable store. Glowing, I told her the remarkable news. It seemed like a miracle. "What number are you?" she asked, her voice showing neither delight nor wonder. For a moment, I didn't even know what she was asking. Then I realized she wanted to know what position I had on the list. That was one of those moments when everything stops and a space opens up. In that instant, I could see that in this world, nothing I did would ever be enough. I was still anxious. I was 58 years old and did not want to spend my remaining years feeling this way. Something was still missing, something more that I should be doing so I could feel good about myself and the life I was leading. Even this achievement, far beyond anything I had ever expected or dreamed possible, could not silence that critical voice. "Everyday Sacred" appeared one day in my mind's eye in sure, bold letters. Can you see that? Everyday Sacred. Everyday Sacred I'd read that in my mind's eye. Bold letters, like one of those blinking restaurant signs. I didn't even know what Everyday Sacred meant, but I knew it would be the title of my next book. 2 years went by, and I didn't write a word. Then, on a day when I was feeling particularly discouraged, another clear image appeared. A begging bowl. Actually, it reappeared. I had read M.C. Richards' Centering. That's a wonderful book, too. Years before. It was a book about clay and art and life. In it, Richards described Jean Genet, the French playwright, who had said he wanted to roam the countryside like a monk, holding a begging bowl, having filled it with what he needed for the nourishment in his life. Everyday Sacred, and now begging bowl. It was obvious to all who knew me that I wasn't a monk, and the very idea of begging would make most of us uncomfortable. In spite of that, the image of a begging bowl reached out and grabbed my heart. The image of the bowl became the image of the book. All I knew about a begging bowl was that each day a monk goes out with his empty bowl in his hands. Whatever is placed in the bowl will be his nourishment for the day. I didn't know whether I was the monk or the bowl or the things that would fill the bowl or all three, but I trusted the words and the image completely. At that moment, I felt most like the empty bowl, waiting to be filled. I turned on the computer, hoping to write, but no words came. With the computer still humming, I walked, practically galloped downstairs to the studio and opened a 25-pound bag of clay, ready to make my first begging bowl. The moment my hands touched the clay, I remembered a wise and wonderful statement that M.C. Richards had made many years ago. It's not pots we are forming, it's ourselves. Just got chills all over. Like the monk going out with his empty bowl, I set out to see what each day offered. I began noticing, the way an observer might, what I was doing, all my thoughts, feelings, and experiences that might be connected to everyday sacred. Somehow, in some way not yet shown to me, I felt there was a connection between everyday sacred and the begging bowl. I looked up sacred in the dictionary and found, quote, entitled to reverence. Close by was sacrament, quote, a practice that is considered especially sacred as a sign or symbol of a deeper reality. Are ordinary, familiar things entitled to reverence? I wanted to see with fresh eyes. What might have been there all along that I had not been able to see? What had I taken for granted? When I began looking, I found teachers everywhere. Some were officially designated wise people. Others were not, but were equally wise. Memories from the past reappeared, fresh. Objects reached out with lessons to teach. I learned from everything and everybody. What follows are the stories, the people, and the experiences that filled my bowl. A connect-the-dots record of my search for the sacred in everyday life. And here I will end, and here is a picture of a begging bowl. I've gone a couple minutes over, and I'm going to end here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I am dedicated to reading you this book, a little each day, and I hope you don't mind, because it's wonderful, and I want you to hear it. And now, as I read to you, not even remembering what I was about to read, I remembered when I read it, because I've read it so many times, it gave me a whole new perspective on my work here on Patreon. It's not about how fast can I grow. It's not about how many people will come. It's about coming each day, holding up my begging bowl, which is not begging in the sense of begging you for money or whatever. It is the trust that a monk has, that when he comes out in the morning and walks the streets with his begging bowl, it will indeed be filled with what he needs for that day. In the deepest possible sense, in this moment, I realize that that is what my work is about here. I will come to you each day with so much love in my heart. I will offer what I can offer that day, and I know that I will receive via comments or whatever engagement might follow exactly what I needed for that day. I hope that what I have to offer might fill your bowl on that day, at least partly, as well. I'll see you tomorrow, my loves. I hope you enjoy this book. You can get really cheap copies on Amazon. The books came out in 1995. All right, loves. Sorry I went over. I'll try to watch my time a little better. But I think it's important that I read this to you. I love you.